Welcome to the channel. Welcome to today's run through of all the latest Manchester United news and transfer updates, keeping you right up to date with everything. I'm Jamie. Before getting into it, smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and let's jump straight into it. So let's kick off. Let's kick off with the daily midfield update. There's been a few reports, actually been some decent reports over the last couple of days as well. I thought it was going to be really quiet with the international break, but it seems like there's a lot going on behind the scenes regarding scouting. We're hearing a little bit more around names and targets and stuff, and I do think this is the last opportunity where United can, have these sort of conversations before heading up into the run up for the January transfer window. So let's kick off with this. This is coming from Team Talk, but it's specifically coming from Dean Jones. Dean Jones is someone who I've always found to be fairly decent when it comes to United news regarding Bouaddi. So the headline is that Man United must move quickly to sign League One sensation they've watched many times. And then in the report, it says Manchester United will prioritise midfield additions in the January transfer window. And Team Talks understand they are interested in signing Lille star Ayyoub Bouaddi. Though they'll face competition. We have consistently reported that Ruben Amorim is keen to bring in two new midfielders, one in January and another next summer. A mid-season addition could also allow disgruntled youngster Kobbie Mainoo to leave on loan, who is keen for more consistent playing time. And that's what I think the narrative will be with Mainoo. If we don't bring in a midfielder, Mainoo's not going to go anywhere because we need obviously we need bodies and we need rotation options in the midfield. The report goes on to say the likes of Elliot Anderson, Adam Wharton, and Carlos Baleba figure highly on the Red Devils shortlist, but signing any of the trio will be difficult in January and very expensive. But they have others on their radar, and Team Talk transfer insider Dean Jones has revealed that Lille's 18-year-old sensation Bouaddi is admired by United, and he is likely to be subject of bids this winter. So this is what Dean Jones is saying. So at the moment, we know that Manchester United are a little bit stuck when it comes to adding to their midfield because their top options are difficult to unlock. It's making me wonder how they view other players who aren't as important for the present but still fit the longer plan. One of them is Bouaddi, who they really like and have watched many times. They are aware that other clubs are also in for him, and it's getting to the stage where I can see someone making an offer for him in January. Juventus are looking at it closely, and it might take something like this to force United to a decision sooner rather than later. So what Dean Jones, and it's a good point, is basically alluding to is the fact that our main targets are not going to be all available in January. So Baleba, Wharton, and Anderson are not going to be January deals going off the unless something crazy happens or unless, you know, I can't see a situation when they would be available. They've all got different reasons to want to stay at their clubs, and the clubs don't want to sell them for their own reasons as well. Very difficult deals to do, those three. But what he's effectively saying is that if Bouaddi is seen as a longer term option, so somebody that maybe we would have looked at in the summer or somebody that we would look at next year, in like a longer term vision, is someone that we do want to go for, that if Juventus or another team make a bid for him in January, we might have to seize that opportunity and go in for him then and just bite the bullet and get a player earlier or lose out on them. So it's a good point from Dean Jones. So and that seems to be the narrative, that the main targets are not available in January. So if Juventus come in, for example, to bid for Bouaddi in January, does that then force United to say, well, actually, this is a kid that we really want and we see him as a longer term, someone long term for the club that we would go for in the future? Do they bite the bullet and go for Bouaddi in January? It does say in the report as well that his contract only runs until 2027, which means if Lille are unable to tie him down to an extension, they'll have to consider selling him in the next two transfer windows. Otherwise, they run the risk of losing Bouaddi on a cut price deal in January 27 or on a free the following summer. So basically, like, this window and the next window is probably the time for Lille to cash in on Bouaddi because of his contract situation as well. And then if other clubs come in for him, it could force United to make a move in January. So that's an interesting point from Dean Jones. And again, it is that's the difficulty, isn't it, of the winter market availability. And the narrative going around the media over the last few days, if you've been watching any previous videos, is it's about opportunities in January, who is actually going to be available. And if those players are available and they're seen as the long-term players, then we'll do it. But if we're not going to go for short-term stopgap options in January, we would rather wait and go for our primary targets. And again, so the question there is, if Bouaddi is seen as our long-term one of our long-term players that we would want in the future anyway. If teams come in for him in January, it's gonna force our hands, or potentially going to be one that we're going to miss out on as well. So that's really interesting. But give us your thoughts and feelings on that in the comments below. Give us your shouts. Would you go for Bouaddi in January if he's available? Give us your shouts on that below. It'd be interesting to hear what you've got to say regarding that. Now, another name that we've been heavily linked with for the midfield is Gallagher. So there's been a bit of an update on there. So Atletico Madrid midfielder Conor Gallagher is open to joining Manchester United on loan in January after struggling for regular minutes in the Spanish capital. Journalist Graham Bailey has claimed. So in the words of Graham Bailey, he said that Gallagher has become increasingly frustrated at Atletico. He is settled in the Spanish capital, but he firmly believes he could and should be in contention for England. This is not going to happen without playing. Gallagher is aware of the interest, and I'm told that United is an appealing option to him. United are aware that other clubs are showing an interest, and they will have a decision to make in the coming weeks ahead of the January window. Despite being pleased with their form in recent weeks, belief within the club is that additional holding midfielder options are required, and Gallagher could very well offer that. So Graham Bailey suggesting that Conor Gallagher is aware of United's interest. I would suggest that that's true, because we did make an offer for him at the end of the summer transfer window anyway, but that he would be interested in coming to United. Of course, why would he not be? But also that we've got a decision to make in January as well, because this goes all tied in with what I mentioned before. If the opportunity to go for somebody in January will only go for our primary targets, and it's about, who is available in January. Colin Gallagher, I think, is one that could be available in January. It's just the question I have on Gallagher is he seen as a long-term solution for the club? Is he in the long-term plans? And if he is, that one's potentially plausible. The other one I would suggest is plausible is maybe João Gomez, whose name's come under attention over the last sort of week or so as somebody that potentially could be available in January if Wolves want to cash in. And if their situation doesn't improve in terms of their relegation, maybe they would see that as a time to cash in on him, as a way to either get more money, because if they do get relegated, then they're obviously going to get less money than they would for him in January, and also to get the cash in to strengthen their squad as well. So I can see João Gomez being plausible for January. Maybe I'd add Bouaddi to that list as well. Now, if other teams come in for him, because that will force United's hands. The other main ones, Baleba, Wharton, Anderson. Nothing. I don't think anything's going to happen with those sort of deals in January. I'd be surprised if they did anyway, going off of the recent reports. And again, I'm no insider or in the know or anything, just reading between the lines of what's being reported and going around. So I would rule those three out for January. But the three that I just mentioned there, Bouaddi, Gomez, and Gallagher, plausible, I would say, for January, depending on what happens. And the question is, if they're seen as long-term targets, then maybe we could go for one of those in the winter window. But we'll have to pay attention to it and keep an eye on it. But give us your shouts and your thoughts on that in the comments below, as I am sure that you will. Now, another midfielder that we have been linked with, we've actually been linked with him before as well. I'm sure I did a report, and it was saying that Jason Wilcox really and Christopher Vale really admire the guy, and it's Kees Smit. So Manchester United hold interest in 19-year-old AZ Alkmaar midfielder Kees Smit. The scouts have been following him for a while. Christopher Vival has mentioned his name in internal talks. Many top European clubs are in the race. Alkmaar would want a fee of around £25 million. Now that's come from Sully Talks. Sully Talks is I think a decent source of information. Got inside information at United. It's good with injury news and little snippets of transfer news and stuff as well. So I actually think that's a decent source when it comes to it as well, saying that Kees Smit, and again, I've done a report on him before. There was a story, I can't remember how long ago, but that we were looking at this kid as a potential option. I think it was in the summer. Someone will probably correct me if I'm wrong regarding that. He is seen as a very talented midfielder. On his scout report, it says he's got strong technical ability, tactical intelligence, maturity for his age. Is a central midfielder, vision, passing range, actually been compared to Frankie de Jong, like that type of profile of midfielder where he can play those line-breaking passes and chance creations. I hope he's not going to be a saga like Frankie de Jong was for us. I'm very scarred, though, when it comes to signing players from certain areas. Like, I'm very scarred, like you in the comments the other day. I totally agree with the ones when we were linked with that Adeyemi. saying about buying forwards from Dortmund. I am scarred by that, and I'm very dubious around signing forwards specifically from Dortmund because we've had our fingers burnt too many times doing that. And I kind of feel that buying players from the Eredivisie as well, we've been a little bit burnt recently. Donny van der Beek, Anthony, to name a few players that haven't exactly gone down very well for us. But on the flip side of that, I don't want to be a hypocrite. I do think the recruitment team is a lot better. We've got obviously Christopher Vivel, Jason Wilcox, the scouting department now. We've got the data analysts in place as well. There's a news story I brought to you regarding that. That's now seen as one of the best in class as well. So I'm kind of going to put my faith in those a little bit until proven otherwise, to say that actually if we are going for players from certain clubs, we are doing our due diligence and we are doing a lot more background checks on personality and character. You hear it from Amrim all the time, from Wilcox, from Omar Barada. These sort of people have all been saying we need personalities and we need the right characters at United. So I'd like to hope that they'd be doing their due diligence. So even though I'm kind of emotionally scarred by signing players from certain clubs or certain areas, I'll still put my faith in the new recruitment structure and team to actually get it right and do all of those checks beforehand. But give us your thoughts on Smit. Not a player I've watched, so I don't want to. I'm no expert. Watching his highlights, I remember doing a bit of research around him before as well. Very good. Looks like a very promising player, very highly regarded. There's a lot of teams interested in him. I did read a report, though, or see a story that Newcastle might be ahead in the race regarding going for him. But yeah, interesting option. Again, I don't know whether that would be a viable option for January. I don't know whether he would help us this season either, because he's going to need time to bed in and all of that stuff. But an interesting profile. Give us your shouts though. Give us your thoughts on Schmidt in the comments below. Do you think he'd be a good option, bad option? Get involved, share it around with everyone, because it will all be interesting to hear your thoughts regarding that. Now, I'm going to debunk this next story. So I read it in the Manchester Evening News, saying United reportedly could be in the mix to sign Quinten Timber. Caught offside also credits Arsenal and West Ham with an interest in the Netherlands international, whose Feyenoord contract expires at the end of this season. Borussia Dortmund, however, is said to be leading the race for the twin brother of Jurrien Timber. Now, that way it was reported, this is in the Manchester Evening News, suggesting that it's a story regarding United. But when I actually read the report, it mentions Manchester United in the entire article a total of one time. Now, whenever I see an article and it's got very few mentions of United apart from a couple, I instantly just think it's clickbait. And that's just me personally. You can have your own thoughts and let me know in the comments if you agree with that or not. But, it's Arsenal. It's talking all about Arsenal. The only time it mentions United is here when it says, still my source tell me that the likes of Arsenal, Manchester United and West Ham could also be the three clubs in the mix for Timber's signature next summer. So it doesn't even confirm that we definitely are. It's just, yeah, United could be looking at him. And the entire article is around Dortmund and Arsenal. So whenever I see that type of story, personally, I always assume that it's clickbait and they're just putting United's name in there to try and generate views and interest and clicks. I'd want to see a little bit more credibility than where this story is coming from. Personally, good player though, good profile of player. Plays a midfielder, decent on the ball, good ball carrier as well. So not a player that actually, when I saw the report, I was like, actually, that would be a decent shout as well, because, and especially if he's out of contract, in the summer as well, he's going to be coming up to, so he can speak to clubs in January. Maybe there's a little cheeky bid you could do to get him in. But again, he just goes against the narrative of us wanting like a Premier League proven player for the midfield, although he could be with the second option, because we know that if we are looking at two midfielders, maybe Timber could be, he'd be an interesting option. I would just want to see a little bit more credibility than where that story came from, because like I said, when I saw it and read the actual report, I actually instantly thought clickbait when it's just got Man United in there once and it's an article around Dortmund and Arsenal, effectively. But that's just me being very skeptical. You can let me know what you think regarding that in the comments below, as I'm sure you will. But for now, I'm going to say take it with a pinch of salt. I'd want to see a little bit more credibility personally regarding that report. But yeah, I'll keep an eye on it for you. Now, United are in the process of scouted some other young players as well. So Manchester United scouted both Jérémy Jacquet and Mohamed Kader Meïté for Rennes against Paris FC last week. Now, this has come from a French journalist that's very close to Rennes and apparently decent as well. I don't know the credibility personally, not a journalist that I've come across come across before. Two very highly regarded youngsters, though, for Rennes. I think in his actual post, he said these are going to be names that are going to become, widely mentioned across Europe as well, with a lot of teams interested in them. Jacquet is a 20-year-old defender along the lines of like been likened to Lenny Yoro, like that profile, good ball player, carrying, aggressive, all of that stuff. Meïté is an 18-year-old striker, not one that I've watched at all, watched their highlights and stuff, but that doesn't necessarily give you an indication of whether they're good or not. I'm pretty sure that Marouane Fellaini's highlight reel probably looked really good on YouTube, but I didn't necessarily think he was the best player for us at the time. So it's not a way to judge a player properly. But going off of the scout reports and reading between the lines and a bit of research that I'd done, they are very highly regarded. And this is and I'm all over this. I have no issue with United going for these types of players. I think the evidence at the moment suggests that when we are going for these type of players, these young developmental up and coming players, we're actually doing a good job at that. So if they're seen as the right caliber of players to bring in, I have no problem with that. And it seems like we are trying to create that sort of pipeline as well, where we've got a consistent amount of young players coming in to hopefully bring into the first team, so that when the first team players are getting old or come to the end of their contracts or whatever, you can start bringing in a pipeline of young players coming through. So I've got no issues with that. I look at our history with like Chido Obi, Aiden Heaven, Diego Leon, Siku Kone. All these types of players are actually very highly regarded and are seen as, future players for the future. Obviously, we need to develop them and we need to see how they settle in England and, all of that stuff. But they are very highly regarded players. So I don't have an issue with United not going for these. I actually trust the recruitment team to go out and scout and do their due diligence and get the right profile of players in. But interesting options, especially for scouting them. But I think we obviously scout a lot of players. Jason Wilcox did say that in his interview the other day, that we're doing all the scouts, and then the scouts would take those reports to the data team, and then the data team will crunch the numbers and come back with a list, and then they'll sit and discuss it, and all of that stuff's going on at the moment. In fact, Jason Wilcox says it's consistently going on at the club as well, which is why you do get these little snippets of reports that we're looking at these players and scouting these players. Doesn't necessarily mean we're obviously going to go for all of them, because we get linked with what about 20 players a day minimum, I would say. But it's interesting profiles. Give us your thoughts and your shouts on them in the comments below, as I am sure that you will. And then we've also been linked with another wing back. Now, this is an interesting profile or an interesting option as well. So Manchester United can be added to the list of admirers for Eintracht Frankfurt's rising star Nathaniel Brown. They have him on their radar, the same as Arsenal, Manchester City and Real Madrid. So that's good company. The question now is not whether Brown will leave, but when. Eintracht know this and expect to receive a huge transfer fee for the 22-year-old. They're aware of the interest from Manchester United and others, and they've set their sights on a big deal. Indeed, they think he's worth at least 63.5 million euros. At least the 63.5 million euro Chelsea paid for Mark Cucurella, and sporting director Marcus Kosche is willing to accept that. So Sport Bild, good German news outlet, are suggesting that United, alongside Arsenal, City, Real Madrid, are admirers of Nathaniel Brown, and we're on their radar, and also suggesting that Frankfurt are preparing themselves for maybe a winter move. Whether we've got the money available to go and do that sort of deal in January, I suspect so. Actually, I kind of think that we do, because I don't think it's a question of budget for January. I think it's a question of availability. Who's available? Opportunities. That's the sort of buzzword that's going around, isn't it, in the media as well. Again, I've not watched a ton of Bundesliga. It looks like an interesting profile, interesting profile of player. Let me know in the comments what you think. But good in terms of like stats and data, especially if you want someone a little bit more attacking, in the top, percentiles for assists, expected goals, shot creation actions as well, in the top, 79%, which is good for a fullback. Not the best in terms of passing, but I don't necessarily think we want to become a tiki-taka passing team anyway. We want people that can get on the ball and run with it, and becoming a lot more direct as a football team under Ruben Amorim. So carries are good, touches in the penalty area good as well, good defensive stats as well. So it does look like a pretty good player for what we would look for in a profile. Someone that can run up and down that wing, can take players on, can get into the box. Looks like a decent shout. In terms of his numbers, so he's 22 years old, 14 appearances, 1 goal, 3 assists this season. Not bad for a fullback as well. So yeah, looks like a decent shout. But again, not one that I've watched a ton of. So I will bow down to your knowledge on this one in the comments below. What are we thinking? Good option, bad option? Would you take him? I know, I do think we need, like wing backs. So yeah, I wouldn't be against going for that one personally. But yeah, give us your thoughts and feelings on that in the comments below, as I am sure that you will. And then the final stories I've got for you is regarding exits. I'm just going to quickly run through this because Romano has basically confirmed that every single player that we've got out on loan is expected to leave the club next summer. So I don't really want to spend too much time on Højlund. He said it's completely over between Manchester United and Rasmus Højlund. There is no chance of him coming back. The expectation is for Napoli to sign him on a permanent deal. On Rashford, he said it is anticipated to depart Man United on a permanent deal in 26. Barcelona are pleased with him and will assess the 30 million euro buy option in due course. Jadon Sancho is set to depart United as a free agent in the summer, and Andre Onana is set to return to Manchester United when his loan ends, but he's unlikely to be included in the club's future plans. United are pleased with Sonny Lemons and don't want to disrupt the current setup, so the expectation is they will look to move Onana on. So Fabrizio Romano basically confirming that the players that we've got out on loan are all expected to leave the club in 2026 at some point. Sancho's out of contract. Onana will return because there's no buy option or anything like that in his loan deal to Trabzonspor, but he's expected to leave in the summer. Napoli want to sign Højlund permanently and are on track to make their option to buy an obligation to buy as well. If they, it's obviously, I think it's Champions League, isn't it? If they qualify for the Champions League, and Rashford, is still expected to leave, but whether he ends up at Barcelona or not remains to be seen. So that's obviously down to Barcelona and their budgeting and stuff as well. So no real surprises there, in my opinion. But give us your thoughts anyway on that in the comments below. Give us your thoughts on all the other topics discussed in today's video, because that's you all up to date with the latest news and transfer updates. Don't forget to smash a like on the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. See you in the next one.